Ah, rest. That little word people chase like it's hiding under their bed or tucked away in some vacation they can't afford. They drink, they scroll, they sleep with strangers, they meditate on mountaintops, all trying to shut off the noise in their heads. But funny thing is, the silence just gets louder. The thoughts, they don't sleep. They wear tuxedos and throw a masquerade ball right behind your eyeballs. Every night, and people, they smile during the day, but their souls are sprinting in circles, screaming in rooms no one sees. Rest? No, 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 we're not tired. We're bone-worn, soul-shaken, fake-miling, exhausted. You ever notice how no one can sit still anymore? Can't even sit in a room without some sound playing, some screen blinking, some buzz or beep or ding letting them know they're still alive, or at least pretending to be. See, it's not the noise they love. It's the distraction, the illusion. Because when the room goes quiet, something else starts making noise. That little whisper inside their skull that asks questions they've buried in concrete. The kind that don't need speakers or subwoofers to haunt you. The kind of questions that come dressed in silence but hit louder than bombs. People will wrap themselves in chaos like it's a warm blanket. They'll drown in music, scroll endlessly, jump from thought to thought like a circus act, all because they can't handle the sound of their own soul. They're terrified of what it might say, or worse, what it won't say. The silence isn't just empty air, it's a mirror, and most folks aren't ready to stare into it long enough to see what's cracking beneath the makeup. Oh, but they'll tell you they're just keeping busy, staying productive, working on goals, chasing dreams. Yeah, dreams all right, nightmares they call success, ambitions that are just fancy cages with gold locks. It's all performance, all noise, white noise for the wounded, sirens for the scared, volume turned up to hide the static that's coming from inside. Now, imagine for a second, just one moment, if they unplugged it all, just pulled the plug, what happens then? That scream in their mind starts echoing, and there's no one to talk over it. The demons don't need to shout anymore, they get to whisper, and that's so much worse. You can ignore yelling, but a whisper that only you can hear, that's intimacy. That's personal. That's exposure. See, silence is honest. It doesn't lie to flatter you. It doesn't tell you what you want to hear. It just waits, patient, menacing, like it knows something about you that you're trying not to know yourself. And in that void, that still, breathless quiet, you start to feel things. Not the shallow little feelings you post about, real ones, the kind that make your hands tremble and your throat dry up, the kind that make you question why you've been running in circles for years just to avoid standing still. People fear silence because it demands truth, and truth is expensive. It costs you your denial. It steals your fake smile and your polite laughter and your carefully curated little identity. Silence doesn't care how many followers you have, or how perfectly you perform your pain for applause. It strips you, makes you naked in front of your own conscience. And when that mirror starts reflecting, when it starts revealing what the noise has been hiding, you either face it, or you turn the volume back up and hope you forget what you saw. But nobody forgets. Not really. The void remembers. The stillness knows. It keeps knocking softly. Like a heartbeat you try to silence. And the longer you run from it, the louder it gets. Not in decibels, but in weight, pressure, guilt, the weight of unspoken questions and unanswered calls from your own spirit. So you keep scrolling, keep talking, keep filling the silence with anything that feels alive. But it's not life you're finding. It's noise dressed up like company. And the more you feed on it, the more empty you get. Because noise can't nourish, it can't heal, it can only numb. And if you numb long enough, you forget what it feels like to feel. Funny thing is, some of the loudest people you'll ever meet are the most hollow. Not because they don't have something to say, but because they're terrified of what they'd hear if they stopped speaking. They scream not to be heard, but to drown themselves out. They laugh too loud, party too hard, post too much, all to prove to themselves that they're not crumbling in quiet pieces behind the scenes. But the silence knows better. It always does. It waits behind every fake laugh and every forced conversation. It knows that one day the noise won't work. One day they'll turn off the phone, the music, the lights, and it'll just be them. Alone, with the echo of everything they've been trying not to hear, and on that day they'll finally learn that silence isn't the enemy. It's the only thing that ever told them the truth. It twitches, it swipes, it scrolls constantly, like a machine pretending to be alive, always reaching for something, anything that'll give it another jolt. More light, more color, more sound, more likes, more flashes of synthetic pleasure. But inside, hollow. Underneath the filters, the dopamine loops, the reels of distraction. It's a child in a grown body with the attention span of a gnat and the soul of a vending machine. Overstimulated, that's the word, isn't it? Every second a new sound bite. Every minute a new trend to chase. They can't focus on a sentence unless it's chopped up with jump cuts and subtitles and flashing emojis. Their idea of deep thought is a two-lipped quote on a pastel background. And development? Who's got time for that? When there's another notification begging for a hit of attention. They're exhausted and they don't even know why. Burnt out by 25 and confused by the silence of their own mind, because it was never trained, never tested, just fed. Fed on noise, chaos, outrage, memes, gossip, endless loops of empty stimulation. And when the stimulation fades, what's left? Not strength, not character, just this soft, glitching version of a human that needs constant recharging by artificial feelings. You see them everywhere, grown adults crying over the Wi-Fi going out, meltdowns over being left on read, spiritual identity built off a TikTok algorithm. You ask them who they are without their phone, and they look at you like you just asked them to breathe underwater. They don't know. They never had to. The device does the thinking. The swiping does the deciding. All they do is react. Pavlov's dogs in streetwear. They confuse convenience with intelligence. Think because they can Google something, they understand it. Think because they can mimic emotions online, they're emotionally mature. But let life hit them just once, really hit them, and you'll see what's underneath all that stimulation. Panic, rage, confusion, a temper tantrum dressed as an identity crisis. And here's the kicker, they think they're awake. They really do. They think because they saw a 15-taka clip of someone talking about shadow work or healing or grind culture that they've arrived at enlightenment. They think knowledge is the same as wisdom. They think self-expression is the same as self-control, but you put them in a room with discomfort, with silence, with a real problem, and the illusion falls apart like wet tissue. And even for this is what's satisfied. This is what weaponizes. There is death. And development takes pain, not the fake curated kind, not I'm so depressed because someone didn't comment on your post. No, real pain. The kind that doesn't come with attention, the kind that teaches you patience, humility, focus. But this generation can't sit with anything long enough to grow. Everything's too slow for them. Reading, too long. Conversations, too boring. Work, too hard. So they chase stimulation like rats chasing glowing cheese. They live in a world of half versions of themselves. Half disciplined, half loving, half believing, half aware, too scared to commit to anything that doesn't come with instant gratification. And they wonder why they're anxious all the time. Why they feel like ghosts inside their own lives. 'Cause stimulation doesn't build identity, it buries it. Under likes, swipes, filters, and fake connection, you give them the truth and they scroll past it. Too long, not trending, doesn't hit the dopamine switch. You give them fast food for the soul, though, that they'll eat by the bucket. Give them a viral video telling them they're a star, they'll replay it 100 times. Tell them they need to bleed a little, grind a little, fall and get back up 100 times to earn strength. Now you're just being negative. They scream for peace while injecting themselves with chaos. They cry for meaning while chasing the most meaningless trends. They call themselves rebels but fall in line with every digital wave that comes crashing through their phones. They call it evolution, but it's not evolution. It's erosion of willpower, of resilience, of depth. They used to say knowledge is power, but now knowledge is just a trivia game, just another way to show off. The power's gone because nobody holds it long enough to build anything with it. They collect quotes like trophies, but never live by them. They've heard every podcast, seen every guru, read every thread, but ask them to sit still for 5 minutes and look their own soul in the face, and they'll reach for their phone like it's an oxygen mask. There's a storm coming, not outside, but inside these overstimulated shells. A storm of realization that all this energy spent chasing noise led nowhere. That development isn't something you download, it's something you earn through boredom, through failure, through stillness. But this generation, they'd rather glitch forever in the loop than sit still and build a ladder out of the void they pretend isn't swallowing them whole. You flinch at it, run from it, drown it in music, pills, distractions, pretty little lies. Pain knocks and you pretend you're not home. You treat it like some monster under the bed, when really, it's the only one in the room telling you the truth. Pain doesn't lie. Pain doesn't sugarcoat. Pain doesn't care about your feelings. Pain is the only honest friend you've got in a world full of masked pretenders, and you treat it like the enemy? Please. You want purpose, real purpose, not that fake influencer style, I found my passion at 19 and now I sell courses nonsense. You want the kind of purpose that drags you out of bed at 4 a.m. when your bones are sore and your soul is louder than your alarm clock? Then shake hands with pain. Look it in the eyes, invite it to sit down and break bread with you, because purpose doesn't walk alone. It brings a bodyguard, a rough one that doesn't speak politely, one that tests every part of you before letting you pass. Everybody wants the glory, nobody wants the bruises. They want the crown but not the scar tissue. They want applause without silence, mastery without failure, confidence without insecurity. They want shortcuts, cheats, life hacks, but what they really need is to be broken and rebuilt, brick by agonizing brick. That's what pain does. It's not here to destroy you. It's here to carve you open so the real you can crawl out of the wreckage. You think the pain means you're off track? That you must have done something wrong? Cute, real cute. It's actually the opposite. Pain is the signal that you're getting warmer, that something inside you is burning away all the rot, weakness screaming as it dies. But oh no, you'd rather pop a pill, take a nap, scroll through your feed and call that healing. You dress your wounds with filters and call it growth. But nothing grows without pressure, without fire, without something snapping inside and demanding more. Go ask anyone who's ever built anything real, anything that mattered, if they did it in comfort. Ask the man who dragged himself through addiction. Ask the woman who clawed her way out of silence. Ask the artist who painted with his pain. They'll laugh in your face. Comfort didn't build them. Pain did. Pain held them underwater until they stopped begging for air and started learning how to breathe differently. You hate the pain because it makes you feel out of control. But that's the point. You're not in control. You never were. Control is the illusion. Growth is the truth. And pain is the teacher. You want to graduate life's class? Then stop skipping the lessons. Stop ghosting your own evolution. Stop throwing tantrums when the universe doesn't give you a gold star for trying. This isn't kindergarten. This is war. A war inside your chest, inside your head, inside your past and future, colliding every single day. You've been praying for strength, haven't you? For resilience, for meaning, for peace. Well, guess what? Pain is the delivery guy. You don't get the package without opening the door. You can't have purpose without pressure. You don't get steel without the fire. You don't get clarity without the chaos. So stop crying when the pain arrives. Think it, listen to it, learn from it. It knows things about you that your comfort zone would rather you never find out. And the people who fear pain stay small. They stay fake. They stay asleep in their plastic lives with their plastic smiles and their plastic dreams. But the ones who make eye contact with the ache, who lean into the scream, those are the ones who break through, who turn pain into paint, who turn breakdowns into battle cries, who look at the scars and grin like they're trophies, because they are. Every scar is a medal you earn for facing the fire and walking out with your soul intact. You ever see someone who's truly alive? Not just breathing, not just existing, but alive, with eyes that burn and a voice that shakes the walls? That's someone who's danced with pain, who's waltzed through hell barefoot and still showed up smiling, not because it didn't hurt, but because the hurt turned them into something monstrous and holy. They don't beg for an easier path. They sharpen their teeth and ask for another round. But you've been avoiding the very thing that would make you unbreakable. You treat discomfort like a glitch. You hide behind affirmations and good vibes and shallow hope. But hope without pain is hollow. It's candy-coated fear. If you want to be something more than average, then pain has to become your training ground, not your trauma. It has to be the mirror you stare into until you finally see the warrior hiding beneath the cowardice you call peace. Tick, tick, tick. And there you are, tapping your foot, chewing your nails, watching the clock like it owes you something. You think you're late, huh? You think your life missed the bus, that the universe forgot to send your invitation to the big party. You think the delay means denial, that every closed door has a final slam. But what if it's not a denial? What if it's a setup? What if the delay is the joke and the punchline's just not ready yet? You ever seen someone too early on stage? Lights aren't on, mic's not working, crowd isn't even seated, and there they are, shouting into silence, trying to make sense of the mess. That's what some of you are doing, forcing moments that haven't matured, demanding destiny to show up half-baked. You're yelling at the sky because you don't like the pause, but pauses are placement. You just don't have the patience to see it. People cry in waiting rooms like it's a prison. They beg for speed, they race against ghosts. But the truth is, delay is disguise, a twisted, beautiful disguise. It looks like stagnation, but it's structure. It smells like failure, but it's fermentation. It's cooking something behind the scenes, while you scream at the curtain, demanding the show. What you call nothing happening is just construction without a signboard. And you keep trying to kick the door open, not knowing it's locked because there's fire on the other side. Fire that would have burned you alive if the delay didn't hold you back. See, life is less like a ladder and more like a dark hallway. And every now and then it forces you to sit, not because it hates you, but because what's ahead isn't ready to handle you yet. Or maybe, just maybe, you're not ready to handle it. You want the blessing, but not the weight. You want the stage, but can't handle the silence. So life delays, not as punishment, but as protection. It's a crooked kind of mercy, one that doesn't feel like love, but it's the only kind that saves you from yourself. People love the finish line. No one celebrates the waiting line. But delays, that's where the real monsters are born. That's where patience turns to power and frustration into fuel. Every second of delay sharpens you or shatters you, depending on how you sit with it. Most crumble. They complain. They walk away just before the doors open. But the few, the dangerous ones, they stare into the delay like it's a mirror, and they wait, smiling, because they know the longer it cooks, the richer the flavor. And when it finally arrives, it doesn't just change the room, it silences it. Funny thing is, we're all addicted to clocks, deadlines, timelines, lifelines. But clocks are man-made. Purpose isn't. Purpose doesn't care about your 5-year plan. It'll wreck it just to see what you're really made of. So when your plans stall, when the job ghosted you, the person left, the doors slammed, maybe that's not the end. Maybe that's the beginning in disguise. Maybe the story hasn't been canceled, it's just rewriting the script. Because the next chapter needs a version of you that this chapter couldn't deliver. The setup always looks stupid when you're in it. You're broke, broken, bent out of shape, asking questions that echo back with no answers. But setups aren't for the faint-hearted, they're for the beasts. For the ones who can sit in the rubble and still build a kingdom. Delays train your teeth, they harden your bones. They teach you the twisted rhythm of becoming something more than average. Because anyone can move fast. But only the dangerous know how to stand still and grow louder in the silence. The world mocks late bloomers, but no one laughs when the late bloomer takes over. No one mocks when the one who was delayed becomes the one no one can ignore. The delay makes you unpredictable, and that's dangerous. Because they counted you out, thought you'd be done by now, but they didn't see what was happening inside. They never see the roots, only the fruit. And by the time the fruit shows up, it's too late to stop you. So here's the real punchline. Every delay that made you feel forgotten, every second that convinced you it was over, was actually a setup so vicious, so perfect, that when it finally hits, the silence won't just end. It'll explode. And when it does, the ones who watched you wait will wish they never blinked. Silence. that thick, heavy air between your questions and the answer that never comes. It creeps in when the lights go out, when the crowd leaves, when the storm doesn't pass, just circles like a vulture. You scream into the void, hoping for an echo, a whisper, anything to prove you're not completely alone. But what comes back is nothing. Not a flicker, not a sound. And in that stillness, your mind starts playing tricks. Maybe he's not listening. Maybe he's gone. Or worse, maybe he was never there to begin with. Oh, but that's the sweet illusion, isn't it? The trap, the bait on the hook. You see, people think the opposite of noise is absence, that if it's quiet, the game's over. But real players don't talk during the setup. Magicians don't reveal the trick while it's happening. And generals don't shout orders when the enemy's listening. So what if the silence isn't abandonment? It's orchestration. What if the silence is the plan unfolding in stealth mode? No warnings, no spoilers, just quiet preparation before the impact. People don't fear the loud ones, they fear the quiet one in the corner, watching, calculating, the one not reacting. Because silence isn't weakness. Silence is focus. Silence is strategy. It's the calm before a world gets flipped upside down. And that's the part no one wants to sit in. They want answers. They want noise. They want flashing signs from the sky saying, "You're on the right path." But that's not how it works. God doesn't hand out maps. He builds mazes. And the silence, that's where he lets you choose whether you panic or push forward. The lack of the silence is where masks fall off, where friends disappear, where your faith either shrinks into dust or turns into dynamite. Because silence stretches you. It pulls at the fragile edges of your sanity. It asks you, do you really believe what you said when everything felt good? Or were those just pretty words for pretty days? Silence asks questions that noise can't drown. And if you listen, really listen, the silence starts speaking. But it doesn't use words. Oh no. It speaks in delays, in detours, in doors that slam, in prayers that bounce off ceilings, in long nights and longer mornings. And you, with your checklist of what should have happened by now, start spiraling. You start doubting. That's the test. That's the war. Because faith is easy when the music's playing, when the crowd is cheering. But what about when it's just you in the dark? No spotlight, no applause, just the hum of a world that seems to have moved on without you. You ever seen a sniper work? No noise, no flashing lights, just stillness, patience, precision. One shot, one target, one result, no drama. That's what this is. God's not ghosting you. He's aiming, he's setting the shot, but he won't flinch just because you're uncomfortable. This silence, it's not punishment, it's positioning. Like a chess game you don't even see the board of, you're a piece being moved, and every time you beg for noise, he stays still. Because if you heard the plan too early, you'd run. You'd ruin it. That's the trick. You think silence means he's stopped working, but it's when he works best, in the background, in the cracks, in the moments you curse under your breath, saying, "Where are you?" And if he answered too soon, you'd never grow. You'd never fight. You'd never become the monster that turns the world upside down. He stays quiet so you can roar. That's the paradox. But people can't sit still. They want exit signs and comfort and timelines. And when they don't get that, they call it abandonment. But what if silence is the highest sign of trust? What if he's quiet because he knows you won't crack? What if he's letting you fall just enough to learn how to fly, not hit the ground? The silence builds resilience. It's pressure without a scream. Growth without a warning, and most don't survive it. They give up, they drown in their own overthinking. But the ones who stay, who endure the deafening void, those are the ones who become weapons. So when everything goes still and the heavens don't respond, maybe that's not rejection. Maybe it's the setup for the shot that changes everything. And when it hits, when it hits, no one will see it coming. Tick, tick, tick. You hear that? That's time laughing at you, mocking you even. You're staring at your phone, your watch, the sky, the mirror, waiting for something, anything to move, but nothing does. Days pass, weeks, years, and you start thinking maybe the joke's on you. That everything you prayed for, bled for, broke for isn't coming. That maybe God changed his mind, or maybe he was never listening in the first place. That's the moment when hope doesn't just fade, it starts to rot, slowly, like a bad secret left too long in the basement. You see, people love quick stories, microwave miracles, snapu fingers solutions. They want God to be like Amazon Prime, fast, reliable, and trackable. Your breakthrough will arrive in 2-3 business days. But he doesn't work like that. No tracking number, no estimated delivery, just silence and time. And time. Time is the cruelest clown of them all. It stretches, it coils, it whispers. Maybe not. And if you're not careful, you'll start believing the lie that the delay is a denial. But let me ask you something. Who told you it was supposed to be fast? Who said it had to happen now? Was it God, or was it your impatience dressed up like faith? Maybe it's not him that's slow. Maybe it's you who's too loud to hear the setup. Because real transformation takes time. Diamonds don't beg the earth to hurry. They just sit there, pressure, silence, darkness, until one day, boom, shine. Darkness, until one day, boom, shine. That's how God moves. Not when you want him to, when it's right, and not a second before. People quit too soon. They rip the cake out the oven because it's taking too long and then cry when it's raw. You prayed, and when it didn't come in your timing, you called it a curse. But maybe it was protection. Maybe the door didn't open because what was behind it would have killed you, or worse, turned you into someone who forgot who you were. You see, God's delays aren't detours. They're defense mechanism. Hidden walls between you and your destruction, disguised as unanswered prayers. You ever watch someone put together a bomb? You don't just throw wires around and hope it doesn't blow. It takes focus, timing, precision. One wrong move, boom. That's your life. That's why God takes his time. He's not building blessings. He's disarming landmines. Situations, people, thoughts. You were about to walk into a war you couldn't survive, but he paused the plan, delayed the drop, and you thought he forgot you. How cute. You think being put on hold means being ignored. Nah, it means he's making sure the next room you step into won't kill you. But here's where it gets juicy. People don't just want it fast. They want it now, even if it costs them later. They'll beg for the crown without the weight, the prize without the price, the glory without the grind. That's why he waits, to see if you still want it when it's not shiny, when it's not easy, when every demon in your head tells you to walk away. That's the audition. And most people fail the callback. They want the story, not the scars. You ever wonder why he shows you the promise but not the process? Because if he gave you the blueprint, you'd run the other way. You'd sabotage it, shortcut it, you'd settle. But delays strip you, break you, prepare you, not just for the blessing, but so the blessing doesn't break you. Because getting it too early, that's the real curse. That's how kings become clowns, how gifts become graves. So he waits, and while you're yelling, "Why not now?" he's whispering, "Not like this." You think you're ready, but he sees the cracks in your foundation, the ones you paint over with fake smiles and half-finished healing. So he delays, not to hurt you, but to heal what you won't admit is still bleeding. And when the silence stretches too long, when you're on your knees screaming into the void, when you think the story is over, he's just turning the page. You're still in the middle of the book. You're just not the one holding the pen. And the funniest part, one day, when it finally comes, when the thing you almost gave up on crashes through the door like it was never late, you laugh. Not because it's funny, but because you'll finally get it. That every closed door, every not yet, every delay, it was never a no. Potential. The prettiest little lie you carry in your back pocket like it means something. Everybody's got potential. It's cute, shiny, like a brand new bullet with no fingerprints on it. But bullets don't scare anyone sitting in the chamber, now do they? What matters is when it fires. What matters is motion. What matters is that sound, that bang, that echo that says, "Oh, I'm coming, and I'm not stopping." That's what shakes the room. Not the bullet, the trigger. See, the devil, he's not losing sleep over who you could be. He's laughing at that. He's seen your dreams, he's heard the speeches, he's watched you post those little quotes online, fire emojis and Bible verses back to back. He's not impressed. You think he's intimidated by your plans? No, sweetheart. He's afraid of the moment you stop talking about it and start chasing it. That's when things get loud. That's when heaven leans in. That's when hell panics. Because potential doesn't cause problems. Pursuit does. He doesn't fight you because you're talented. He fights you because you're dangerous when you move. Because the moment you stop letting fear hold your leash and start running with fire in your veins, you stop being predictable. You start being a problem. That's when he starts throwing things, distractions, doubts, delays, depression dressed in the suit of logic. Because if he can keep you still, he doesn't have to kill you. He just has to paralyze your purpose. And you think it's coincidence. The storm hits right when you're about to step out. The anxiety shows up right when the opportunity knocks. The relationship crumbles the second your calling starts getting loud. It's not random. It's sabotage. But not the obvious kind. Oh no, the elegant kind. The kind that makes you question if the dream was ever real to begin with. That's how he works. Not with pitchforks and smoke, with whispers, with silence, with comfort that kills slowly. People think pursuit is loud. It's not. It's quiet. It's waking up at 3 ayaham with tears in your eyes and a fire in your gut. It's doing the thing when no one's watching. It's showing up when your body screams quit. Pursuit is messy. It's gritty. It costs. That's why most don't do it. Because it burns. And not everyone's ready to walk through fire just to reach a promise they've never touched. But that's what separates the threats from the talkers. Motion. You ever wonder why you feel heavier the closer you get? Why it feels like the whole world starts folding in on you the moment you take a step toward it? It's not bad luck. It's resistance. It's pressure. It's the war between the future you're becoming and the chains that want to keep you here. And every time you take another step, something behind you screams. Because you're leaving. Because you're breaking free. Because you're proving them wrong. That's the sound of fear, not failure. And let's talk fear. Because fear, oh, it's a master illusionist. It'll paint itself as wisdom. It'll wear your mother's voice, your best friend's concern, your own doubts. But it's all him, hiding, dressing up as reason, trying to convince you that small is safe and big is reckless. That risk is irresponsible. That chasing purpose is selfish. But deep down, you know what it is. You feel it in your bones when you settle. That ache, that hollowness, that scream beneath your smile, that's the truth. That's the real you, gagged by comfort. He doesn't want you poor. He doesn't want you broken. He wants you quiet. Because if you ever decide to start moving like you believe you were built for something greater, everything changes. You start breaking patterns. Generational curses start shaking. Rooms shift when you enter. Words cut deeper. Chains snap. And he knows once you taste freedom, once you taste movement, you'll never go back. So he fights, not because of your potential, but because of your pursuit. You don't need more signs. You don't need another confirmation. You don't need applause. You need momentum. Because once you move, everything follows. Favor follows motion. Anointing follows obedience. Power shows up when you step. Not before. That's the secret. You don't wait for the strength to move. You move until strength finds you. That's how you flip the script. That's how you flip the table. That's how you become the threat he always feared you'd be. Late? That's cute. You really think clocks matter to chaos, to war, to destiny? You think the ticking on your wrist knows better than the rhythm that's been burning in your bones since birth? You think being behind means being buried? You're not late. You're loading. You're sharpening in silence. You're becoming. And they don't even see it coming. That's the fun part. The world loves noise. It loves fast. It worships instant. Everyone wants to be seen before they're ready, clapped for before they've bled for it. But you're different. You're dangerous. You're not designed for applause. You're built for aftermath. Your silence has been your training ground. Your delay, your disguise. You weren't being punished. You were being preserved. Because you don't unleash fire until the match is ready. You don't send a warrior to war until their aim is flawless. You don't reveal the weapon until the enemy's close enough to feel it. And you've been hidden so long you started believing you were forgotten. But forgotten is a lie whispered by impatience. Hiding is holy. Hidden is how legends are made. Let them mock your pace. Let them flex their timelines. Let them race in circles while you sharpen your teeth in the shadows. There's a reason they haven't seen you yet. It's not because you're weak. It's because when you step out, you're going to shift something. You're going to break something. You're going to become someone they can't unsee. And that kind of entrance, it requires time. not microwave minutes, fire-forged seasons. See, the longer the silence, the louder the return. The deeper the weight, the greater the wave. You don't want early exposure. You want eternal impact. You want to enter like a reckoning, not a trend. And that kind of arrival doesn't come from rushing. It comes from refining, from being broken in private, from bleeding behind the curtain, from being overlooked while you overhear everything. You ever wonder why it's been so quiet? Why the doors didn't open when you knocked politely? Why the spotlight skipped you when you were most prepared? It wasn't rejection. It was protection. Because if they had seen you too soon, they would have caged you, praised you prematurely, clipped your wings in the name of celebration. But heaven doesn't launch amateurs. It raises assassins, quiet ones, patient ones that study patterns before making moves. And let's be honest, you weren't ready. Not then. You thought you were. You cried about it, screamed at the sky, shook your fists at delay. But deep down, you were still soft, still seeking approval, still folding under pressure that felt like purpose. But now, you've felt fire. You've swallowed silence. You've tasted betrayal and built resilience from the ashes. Now, you're getting dangerous. You don't need to announce your return. Let your presence speak for itself. Let your scars do the talking. Let the version of you that survived everything they never knew about be the weapon you wield. And when you walk in, don't explain, don't shrink, don't bow. You weren't absent. You were being sharpened, and now you're the blade. You're the storm. You're the reason the room shifts without a single word. This world doesn't need more loud. It needs more lethal. It needs people who don't just talk about purpose, they become it. Who don't just dream about freedom, they fight for it. And those kinds of people, they never arrive on time. They arrive when it hurts, when the need is urgent, when the enemy is arrogant, enough to think the war is already won. That's when the hidden ones rise. So if you feel late, smile. If you feel behind, laugh. Because what they call delay, you'll one day call strategy. What they call silence, you'll rename sanctuary. Because when you finally step out, when your moment comes, not a second before, you won't just take your place, you'll take over. You'll shift systems, you'll disturb demons, and they'll all ask, where did this one come from?